Okay, so if you want to find out why this trick doesn't actually work, I'm going to tell you. So this is the classic myth of you have your collector extension, you paint a line on it. You get a long one. You paint a line on it. And supposedly, wherever that line burns to and stops burning, that's where you're supposed to cut this in order to have the optimum collector extension length. On my header videos, a lot of people were saying to do this, and the truth is, it doesn't work. It, and really, if you think about it, there's no reason why it should work that way. Let me explain. So the reason this doesn't work is frankly because the methodology, the theory behind why it works is flawed. But before I get to that, let me just prove to you that this doesn't work. Here's a screenshot of the Engine Masters test where they were testing collector length itself. Take a look at this. This is with no collector in red and with a collector in blue. See the big difference here? So, needless to say, running a collector is the right thing to do. They were using a 30-inch collector in this scenario. Now, what they did was they actually did paint a line on these collectors. And they were, making multiple runs, test after test, as they were cutting the collector shorter and shorter to see what happened. So eventually, when they got to the paint mark, they cut right where the paint said to cut, and this is the result. Now, the line we're paying attention to is in blue. The red line above it is from a slightly longer collector. I think it was 12 inches long, and they went to 8, which was the paint mark. But as you can see, if we compare this graph to the previous one right here, well, look what happened. As you can see, it killed all the power. And it was run multiple times, with multiple tests. They're not the only ones who have done this test and had these results. It's repeatable. Google it on YouTube. YouTube it. People have done this test plenty of times, and this is the result they've shown. Now, the reason why people think this works is because of the heat. They think wherever it stops burning, that's where the heat's gone, so that must be where it's no longer doing anything, right? It's no longer scavenging, no longer helping pull exhaust gases through. Well, that logic is flawed, and here's a test that proves that as well. So Engine Masters were testing header wrap to see if trapping the heat inside the header makes power. Heat is the lubricant of exhaust, after all. So theoretically, the hotter you make it in there, the more velocity you'll get, so the more power you'll get, right? Well, this is the test they came up with. This is the conclusion. As you can see here, all 3 runs, painted header versus coated ceramic header versus header wrap. The header wrap retained the most heat. Coated header was middle, and painted obviously radiated heat out of it like crazy. And all 3 made the exact same amount of power. The engine didn't care how hot the exhaust was. The exhaust tubing was. Didn't matter for power. So if it didn't matter for power in that regard, it's not going to matter for this regard. Your exhaust gas temperature is not influencing this whatsoever. It's really reflective waves and actual volume and everything else that's determining how long your collector length should be, not exhaust gas heat. Well, sorry, but kind of busting an old school myth. I really like the old school methods, But you gotta know what's really factual from what's, you know, hypothetical when it comes to this stuff. All right, well, that's it for now, and I'll catch you next time.